Welcome to the Organizational Maneuverability Radio Show, Defying Gravity so your team can soar at altitude, with host Marshall Goldsmith, Executive Coach, Randy Swaim.
Well, hello. This is Marshall Goldsmith, Certified Executive Coach, Randy Swaim again, and welcome to the Organizational Maneuverability Radio Show that some of you have seen previous episodes on. And I'm very honored again today to have my friend and colleague on as a guest, Stephen Wood. Again, he's been on a couple of shows before, and I'm very honored to have him on again with some good topics. So I'll tell you what, I'll let Steve initially introduce himself for a minute, and then we'll move on with the topic. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
Good.
Fantastic. I love being back on your program again, and I hope people are enjoying what we're talking about because I think there's big need for it and big understanding that's required at the moment for everything that's going on in the world. But I think we're building a little bit of a format here. We've started off talking about the subconscious and the conscious mind. We've spoken about autopilot.
Mm-hmm.
We've spoken about the terror barrier.
Yep.
Which we all feel at some point in our life. And today, I thought we might just touch on this thing called the self-image.
Cool.
It was brought to prominence by a guy by the name of Maxwell Maltz.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote a book called Psychonetics. And he was a surgeon, a plastic surgeon, and he'd have people come to him for all sorts of different reasons. Sometimes there was the extreme. There was like accident victims that had to be picked up, but a lot of his clients were people that were just not happy with the way they looked. And, they'd come and see him and say, can you fix my nose? Can you fix my ears? Can you fix my, mouth or whatever? Yeah. And so,
can you give me hair back?
And so what he started to notice was that people weren't happy with the way they looked. And they thought by changing something would make them feel better. Okay. And he said in some cases, what he observed was that was the case. But in other cases, they would take the bandages off and they'd say, well, what have you done? And nothing would change in their lives. Mm-hmm. And so what he discovered was that it wasn't an external thing, but more an internal thing, and it has been written about for a long time now. But he was the one who really brought it to prominence. But essentially, what the self-image is, as we spoke about when we spoke about the conscious and the subconscious mind, is we start building these ideas or patterns up in our mind from a really young age, and so it's this model or this program that we carry around with us that is this mental blueprint of what we believe about ourselves. It's this like individual or tailor-made concept of who we believe we are, and as a result of what we believe, that ends up flowing through to our personality, our behavior, even the results that we get in our life.
And that's a great point, because you see that very often. It's sort of a dysfunctional aspect of where people just want to sell you on who they want themselves to be rather than really becoming it and everything when you think about that aspect that you're talking about.
And there is a concept that I'm a big believer in, is whatever this, it's like the how do I explain it? It's like the conscious and the subconscious mind. If the program that's sitting in the the subconscious mind, the mind that drives everything, is this picture of, this is who I am. I'm no good at maths. I'm no good at writing. I'm no good at. I wouldn't never want to do that. I'd never want to go and climb Mount Everest, or I'm frightened of heights, or we all have this pattern, but that pattern ends up driving everything in your life. And one of the important things is that people say, oh, it might not happen with me, but you've got to remember that this is subconscious. So it's not part of our consciousness. We're not thinking about it.
That's right.
On a day. It's just running in the background, and we don't take notice of why it is that we don't want to do certain things. The expanse of this is huge. It regulates how much money you earn. It regulates the sort of people that you're with. It regulates where you live. It regulates the sort of, car you drive. The sort of holidays you go on. Or what you believe about disciplining you or bringing up your children.
Yeah,
it's like this complete package. And once you've got that program, the results in your life can never exceed that map unless you start examining what that map is. It's like
get your prefrontal cortex engaged.
Yeah. So whatever you think about yourself is part of that self-image. And so what's if you stop and think, when people get stuck and they go, I'm not, a lot of people are not happy with their lives. So it's when you stop and you start examining that, why am I fearful of this? Why am I fearful of, what do I think I'm not worthy? What do I think I'm not, why am I not acknowledged at work? All these things are a pattern.
Yeah.
They're all part of the program.
And so many people just go into the making excuses and just, saying this, whatever and stuff without, like you implied, going through that processing point there.
Yeah. So there's several ways of strengthening this, but you look at sports teams have understood this for a long time.
Yeah.
And you look at, I think America does it probably better than anywhere, where else in the world. But you look at all the great basketball players who came from very, average backgrounds. I'm saying, they didn't have a lot, but they achieved extraordinary things. And part of their process, and often many of them talk about it, is this process of basically rewriting the program that they believe that they had. That if they wanted to, achieve to the highest level, then they had to start rewriting this program. And there's plenty of studies around, and one of them is they referenced the basketball. They took a team and they divided it into three. They took one group who practiced for, I think it was 2 weeks. Yeah. Just doing free throws. The second group did no practice at all. And then the third group only practiced in their mind. So they imagined that they were throwing the free throws. So the group that actually did it improved by 25%. And then the group that practiced it in their mind improved by almost the same amount. It was like 22 or 23%.
Yeah.
So it just goes to prove that these beliefs are the thing that controls almost everything in our life, why we succeed and why we don't.
And really a key part of leadership in what you're just saying there is, how are you leading your team in such a way that you help your team members overcome that aspect that's sort of holding them back and get on to kind of amazing things. You mentioned basketball, but I remember the NC State Wolfpack in basketball back in 1983. I'm dating myself with that, but they were not even supposed to be in the NCAA tournament, but they won some games that they were totally unexpected to win. And Jim Valvano at the time was the head coach of them. And they ended up going on and competing in the final game, competing with the most challenging team of Houston at that time. And they ended up beating Houston at the last second.
Yeah.
And they were NCAA champions for that year. And everybody was going crazy, but it's like there's not really a way, if you look at the way a lot of people look at that, you're kind of hinting at there with what they do. They shouldn't have gotten that far, but the fact that they did is because they did what you're talking about, of really overcoming that and making it happen. And that's a key aspect in today's world that people sort of have to do.
Yeah. And look, I'm just going to sort of step outside of the circle here, because while you're talking about that, I was thinking that, I think the other part of this that we can look at is people can be going along in their lives, doing, reasonably well. They're happy,
Mm-hmm.
Everything seems to be ticking along.
Mm-hmm.
And they've never ever thought about what it is that's, going on in the background. But then something happens in their life. So, they might get retrenched from work. They might have a marriage breakdown. There's, a parent could pass away, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then that leaves a marker, particularly around the work, the work thing and relationships. Mm-hmm. That incident can then almost build on the self-image. Mm-hmm. and go, am I good enough to get another job? Mm-hmm. What happens if I'm not respected? What happens if they, find out about my past? All this storytelling goes on. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's all part of that belief system. It might not have been in the front view while you're just happily going along, but it's stored there in the background subconsciously somewhere about your worthiness.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, off you go.
I was going to say, and with what you're talking about there, when you've got that sort of picture, as you said, sort of back here in your mindset of yourself, when you're talking about leading people, how do you really lead in such a way that they get to break free of that? And that's such a key part. It's that neuroscience aspect that is so critical for leaders to basically understand. Because it's not about just dictating to them, but it's in a lot of cases, it's asking them the right questions that help them process and really step forward from that aspect that's sort of holding them back.
I know that you're on this, you're passionate about this path, Randy, and so am I. And mm-hmm. One of the big things that I've modeled my program around is that organizations, and we're sort of just going off track a little bit to follow up from what you're saying. Mm-hmm. A lot of organizations for a long time, once again, I'm not sure what it's like in America. I know what it's like in Australia. Companies have a budget for training. And they're focused solely on giving people more skills and more processes and more of fishy. We're going to teach you how to become, a better leader or a better manager, or we're going mm-hmm. to, teach you about diversity, any range of things.
Mm-hmm.
But what we know about the mind is that, so in my experience, because I experienced this when, in my career in TV, they'd send me somewhere, and it would be great, and you'd get all the information, you'd get the colourful handbook, and then you'd go back to work, slip it into your desk, and then go back into the routine and pressure and stress of doing your job. And a lot of those learnings were not adopted, not because you want to, but we know that to learn something, it's got to be reinforced. It's no different to when we learnt to drive a car, or we learnt the ABC, learnt to count, learnt to walk. It's got to be repeated.
Yeah.
And but one of my, one of the things that I'm trying to do at the moment is go into organisations for a longer period of time, so the message gets reinforced. But instead of just building a skill on top of a foundation that is supported by what we're talking about over this series, what are the subconscious beliefs? What do I believe about myself? What's my self-image? And so you can teach, my theory is that you can teach somebody all these other skills, but it's sitting on this platform of, am I good enough? Or am I capable of this? Would I be a good manager? Would I be a good leader? And so my process and philosophy at the moment is, why don't we fix up the foundation first? Let's find out what's going on with the foundation before we start. It's no different to, if you have to go and renovate your house and the slab or the foundations are crooked, you can end up with a, good looking house. It might sink into the ground.
Yeah.
You understand the point I'm getting at here?
Totally. I totally do. And if you think about it, a lot of what you're talking about is that real, true interpersonal situational awareness. What is it that's holding them back? What is it that makes them not see where they want to take a couple of steps and move forward, and things of that nature? And so those are some of the things you're very aligned with, and very I think smart in kind of what you're saying there. Because it's not just going to rote academic things. And so many people that teach other people right now, they just go with rote academic sort of concepts. And when people, and this is very aligned with what you just said, that as soon as somebody realizes that what, here's how I can do that. And you know what, let's walk forward and let's start seeing this. And that's a big part of that for sure.
And so the other interesting layer of all of this is that all those things that we've built up over time about who we believe that we are. Sorry.
That's okay. He's the audience.
He's the audience today. Is that a lot of these ideas came from those early years in our lives. So, from that, we've spoken about this before, but from 0 to 7, a lot of those ideas were imprinted in our minds. So we're walking around with this self-image that really we didn't have a part in programming. It sits there because of what we're taught to believe. And now, not all of us, it's bad. I mean, when mum and dad says, we love you, you're amazing, you're incredible, you can do anything, that's great. But it's all the other stuff that sticks in there.
Yeah. And so often people today, and parents also, don't have a real understanding on how you really develop that processing and vision and that growth and development in your kids or your family members. And it's like, in order to truly do that, you got to do some of what you're talking about. No two ways about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for people that are listening to this and, they're going, oh, you know what, I feel like I've been stuck for a long time, or, I totally get what you're talking about. once again, it just takes time to sit down, understand what it is that's, first of all, a good indicator is where's the emotion. What is it that makes you feel on edge or fearful or frightened? And then take that and see if you can just take incremental steps in going, well, what happens if I just, took the first step? Or what happens if I just, set myself a goal over the next week or 2 weeks? We've said before, you can do amazing things in a week just by changing your habits or talking to yourself. Inner talking is a really big thing, changing that program.
Yeah.
But one of the, I was just going to say that one of the processes that I really like, and it came from an American uni, is this bus metaphor.
Okay.
And it's imagine for a moment that you've got a bus and you're the driver of the bus and you driving it towards your goal. You've got to pick who you want on the bus as passengers. Who are the people?
And make sure they're in the right seat.
Yeah. Who are the people that are going to help you? Who are the people that are going to get you to your goal? And so it could be relatives, it could be work associates, friends, whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also need to leave a compartment aside for that self-talk, that inner talking that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to become aware that what you're saying to yourself is either getting you to the next step or is it hindering you?
Yeah. And that is a critical thing for people to be aware of, and very few people ever are.
Yeah.
Is it holding us back, or is it really valuable, kind of thing? Yeah. That's huge.
And so one of the ways that I try to break that down is, when I'm talking to a group and I sort of ask them a series of questions, I go, I don't want to know what it is that you tell your friends, your parents, or the rest of the world. I want to know what you tell yourself when you put your head on the pillow at night and you're by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What's that talk? What are you telling us? Because people wander around, for a large part of their life, telling stories to everybody else to create the impression that everything's just honky-dory, but they're telling themselves a different story in the back of their head.
Yeah.
And that in my mind is the one that you've got to try and fix.
And that's true. And one of the things that leaders have to become very much aware of is how are they know that is affecting one or two or several people in their team. And as a leader, what do you need to do on that to help them sense it and break free of it? And that's something that a lot of people today don't understand.
Yeah. I'm sort of, once again, I just got twigged again by, I was going through some old blogs that I'd written, and I just, I can't remember the title of it, but it's based around exactly what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's the image that you portray in the organization, and this, I'll get it out for our next one because it's really interesting.
Cool.
It's the image you portray and what you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And people can tell you might be saying one thing, but you could be doing something completely different. Mm-hmm. And it's all about trust.
Yeah.
And you would know this as well as I would, is that, in the whole leadership area, it's all very well to have skills, but it's what's coming out of your mouth. What are your actions? What are your behaviors?
Yep.
Because as you said, the rote learning you can be saying, and saying all the right things, but are people engaged with it? Are they trusting you as a leader?
And what do they see in your body language?
Exactly.
What's that making them feel?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So it really is good to know, but this aspect about how somebody pictures that mindset within themselves, that can hold them back. And sometimes if they become aware of it, they can break free of it and really reach radical success beyond that. But how you get there has got to be key for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
well, I'll tell you what, I know we're getting close on this, and the dog's excited there for you.
Yeah. But, I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. But but it's been a good message here. Is there anything else that you would like to share? I know you said you have seen some of this in aviation, as have I. So, but anything else you'd like to share before we sort of sign off?
Look, we spoke earlier on, Randy, just about, there's never been a better time to start looking at how we're behaving and interacting with the world around us. And I just say to people, just read as much as you possibly can, and just start with little things to start making an improvement. Cool.
And that's cool for all of us, as I mentioned before we started today, that, it's we used to say in martial arts, if you think you've arrived, it's solid proof that you haven't.
Yeah.
And I know, and I know that I've had people, and you said maybe I could share this just on the show here, but many people have asked me when I'm going to retire, and I say when I take my last breath, because I am going to continue growing wherever I am, at whatever level I'm at. I'm going to keep growing and keep becoming, right, until I run through the tape. And that's something that you got to do. That's something you got to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we got a couple of minutes here left. The dog's getting excited, but let me just let you, Steve, share anything in summary, or anything as a final kind of just insight with this that you'd like to share before we sign off.
Well, just very, very quickly. I don't want people to think that we're talking about this and we're immune to it. Everybody has this, and I had
that is true.
I had an interesting situation a couple of 12 months ago, and I bumped into an old colleague, and I sort of couldn't remember his name, but he said, "Oh yeah, I remember you. You're in the TV game," and he said, "You just amazed me. You did so many things. And I remember you were a pilot." And he said, "I always scratch my head and wondered why you're in TV and you didn't become a professional pilot." And I walked away from that going, "You know what? I wonder what that was about." Because I knew that I was safe flying, an hour from home and back again.
Yeah.
But there was something in my self-image that didn't believe that I could ever become an airline pilot.
Oh, wow. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've had a good career, but I know my autobiography is very soon to be published. It's called Bringing Freedom to Potential. And really the central of that is my story, but it's a central part of it is the idea, as you just kind of implied, about going from pilot to coach. And of course, I'm still a pilot, and I'm still developing and training jet pilots, but also as an executive coach, how that process even happened in my mind, and how that came to be. Very aligned with kind of what you're talking about right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you what, anything you want to say before we sign off, Steve?
I think I might have to wrap it up and go and sort this dog out.
Sounds good, man. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure. We'll look forward to the next one. I know you said you got another topic to bring, and I look forward to that. But listen, I hope you have a great week, and we'll look forward to seeing you the next time around. And for everybody watching, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much.
Take care now.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.